back in the day, I was in Austin with Charlie Red here in town, and we had a kind of like a time cover band, and we played all those songs. So when I went to the audition, I didn't even listen to the stuff because I just played, And a lot of things for me kind of always fell into place. Like I can remember when I got home on my answer machine was Morse. Tori, we're gonna put together the band again, and I'd like to see if you'd like to come down and play. We're gonna be at, I was like, oh my God, this is too surreal.
And welcome to the Tulsa Tempo Podcast. My name is Amy Elizabeth, and I'm your hostess. We're coming to you from the beautiful Blue Couch Studios, located right across the street from the church studio right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And today, we have a very special guest with us, internationally known artist, one of my favorite people in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Tori Freakjuice Ruffin. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Great to be here. Appreciate you.
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Everything's wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming and hanging out with us here on the show.
Oh, I appreciate it.
So we're going to dig really deep into you because we want to know all about you.
Okay.
Because I think people need to know.
I'm an open book. Let's see.
I love it. All right. Well, you said it. You said it.
I'll give it to you.
So, well, tell me how you first. I want to know how you first got started. I know a little bit of your history, but your history spans years. I mean, we're old, Tori. So
I'm young at heart.
Yes. So tell us about how you got started.
I'm originally from Detroit, and ever since I can remember, I was in love with music. I come from a time where everything was on the radio. What I mean by that is everything was on one. Like you didn't have a bunch of stations like you have now. You had a few stations, and they played the hits. So you could hear Led Zeppelin, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, and James Brown on the same station. It wasn't so separate like it is rock now, R&B. Anyway, so growing up as a kid, I heard everything, and all my musicians friends in the neighborhood. I got a guitar early on, and I learned a few chords, but I would jam in the basement with some friends. And being in Detroit, there was a Canadian band right across the river named Rush. So believe it or not, there was this guitarist, his name was Mike Banks, I remember it vividly, and he was way into Rush. And when I first heard it, I thought, what is this nonsense? But then when I started playing, I just fell in love with the band. So we would play It's Your Thing by the Isley Brothers. I think that was the first tune I ever learned. Everybody know. If you don't know that song, look it up. It's a great song. Mm-hmm. We played it for hours. That riff in the basement, just trying to perfect it. Believe it or not. And then we would jam with Mike Baines, and then of course Led Zeppelin was there, and so that was my early influence. So we moved to California in 75, 76, and then things progressed from there.
So the first song you ever learned was It's Your Thing, right?
Oh, yeah, that was my first song I ever learned. It's Your Thing.
Do you still play that today?
Funky, man. We might have to do that with
break
Freakjuice.
That out, right? So when you were in Detroit, or did it take until you went to California, when did you realize that you were going to do music for a career?
I can remember the first time that I was like, oh, man, I got to do this. Now, I didn't know if I'd make any money out of it, but I just knew that I had to play. During high school, like most kids, I played a little football, a little basketball. Mark Akers, and there's a college guy, announcer, I forgot his name. Anyway, that's real big on NCAA sports. I went to Rolling Hills High and played with some cats, and I was really into basketball, but at the same time, I was in Rolling Hills, and I had a Honda 250, and I went down to the music store in Inglewood. Now, I grew up in Detroit, which was predominantly black, and then my parents, a long story, we went to Palos Verdes, which was predominantly white. And so I can remember being in the 9th grade going, Dad, where's all the black people? But anyway, so that's how I learned to, just acclimate myself and just accept all cultures and just be in the scene and not care about, get hung up on social norms that might have been, affecting the country at the time. It was all about the music. But how I got into it, back to my story, is I got on a motorcycle, and I was determined to find me some brothers. I wanted to find me some brothers. I said, where are all the brothers? So I got on my motorcycle and went down to Inglewood and was hanging out in the guitar shop. And in walked my buddy Jerome, and we became friends, and he played drums. And so I would go down to Inglewood after every day after school and play in his garage. And that later went to... they used to have these Battle of the Bands episodes in the park. Everybody, this was when everybody played in the band, basically, for entertainment or, there's a lot of musicians, bands were the thing. So they had these Battle of the Bands. Anyway, make a long story short, I found my other buddy, Bruce Sterling, who I known. These guys I've known since I was 15. And he ended up later being musical director and manager of late night television, getting bands to come on television for over 2 decades. But I'll get into that later. But he was in a band playing. It was a band called Kush, and it was like a fusion. But they didn't have a guitar player, so I went and auditioned for them. They let me in the band because I had a van. My mom let me take the van to one rehearsal. Like, yeah, he's all right, but he has a van. So they let me in the band, and I was still in basketball. And I was going in, but we played a high school. It must have been a high school just recess or whatever in the gymnasium. Obviously, it was for the whole school. Obviously, the kids were just happy to be out of recess because we hit the stage. And there was a thunderous applause and screams and yells like we were the Beatles. And I was like, I know what I want to do now. I want to play guitar. I want to do this. And from that day on, I was hooked. The adrenaline and the excitement that I got from just that thunderous applause, And of course, you kind of get into it for the wrong reasons, but if it's into you, not the wrong reasons, or the superficial reasons, I would say, but if it's in you, it's you learn very quickly. It's not about the money; it's about passion and growth and the music.
Yeah, we talked about that.
The music calls you. It chooses you. You don't really choose it. Music really chooses you if you're gonna do it. If you're going to really do it.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Remember we said, that if it's not in your soul, before you get up on that stage the first time, then you don't have any business being up there.
Yeah, it's not going to, you don't, don't get me wrong, you want to make as much money as you can and definitely you don't want to starve, you want the best gigs possible, but you learn very quickly, that it could go the other way, and do you still want to do this? And for me, it's like breathing. It's like if I can't do that, I can't breathe anymore.
Is that one of the lessons that you learned early on in your career? Something that you learned to appreciate? I think
I learned to appreciate that early on. Early on, we were doing gigs, and it was all about getting the best gig and that type of thing. I think that kind of I matured into that or learned that lesson. Like, man, because after so many disappointments, almost being at the mountaintop and tasting the, but then I think everybody learns when you're older that success is not the big house and mansion and cars. It's success. You give yourself success. It's what makes you happy. And you really learn that because and you learn that your health is everything. All the cliches that you hear everybody say once you get older, it's the truth.
Oh yeah, because when you're young, we're untouchable.
Younger, you're untouchable. You don't, and so you learn that health and family, friends, and being able to play this instrument is what God is a God-given gift and a blessing.
Would you say that it humbles you?
Oh, definitely. If you're into music, you definitely are humbled by the instrument and the endless possibilities, for sure. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, now you've been playing with the time for how many years now? You've been lead on 25?
30. So
30 years.
Would you like to hear about how that became?
I would. Do tell.
So I was telling you about my buddy Bruce Sterling, who I met as a teenager. Well, we were in L.A. and we had this band called Kush. We were rehearsing in the garage, and that band it started as one thing, but later morphed into the Melvin Davis, Carl Denson, Jeffrey Suttles, myself, and Bruce Sterling, who later became the world's greatest band, Sexual Chocolate. Yeah. You remember
those Sexual
guys,
Chocolate?
Yeah. But that's another story. I'll get to that.
In the blue tuxedo.
I get the blue tuxedos, that's right.
With your hair like
That's right. That's right. The greatest band ever. But it as a joke as that band was over the years, all those guys are serious musicians. Melvin Davis plays with serious jazz cats. Chaka Khan, he's the musical director of Chaka Khan. Carl Davis played with the Rolling Stones, and Bruce Sterling, my buddy, had this great idea back in the day. L.A. has a lot of celebrities, obviously, and a lot of late night television there. So the record companies used to go around individually and search bands and try and find and put them together. And the managers, Bruce saw this niche where, hey guys, he went to all the labels and said, hey, instead of running around and, I have a rehearsal facility, I have a plethora of musicians we can call from. I'll be the one-stop shop. And we had this studio, Hollywood and Vine, that survived the riots, by the way, but that's another story. And we rehearsed people like, anybody that was on Arsenio, TLC, Back in Time, Bobby Brown. We would, and we did over, like I say, 2 decades of that stuff. And that's how I was able to play and with some icons, which at the time, you're not really thinking, hey, wow, this is Whitney Houston, or hey, wow, this is Bobby Brown with, this huge hit. You're thinking, oh, I'm about to pay rent this month. Thank God, rent is, whoo, we made it another month. So, but then years go by and you go like, oh man, that was some pretty cool stuff, Aretha Franklin, and, we were doing Soul Train. I don't know if, I'm that old. I did Soul Train episodes. Morris Day came on and needed a band. He was doing his solo project. And if you know anything about old school R&B, Prince and the time and that whole Prince movement, he ruled the 80s back then. Mm-hmm. And if you were an R&B guitar player, you had your Jerry curl, your eyeliner, or whatever. In the Minneapolis scene, your spandex, even I didn't wear spandex, maybe once. Okay. Maybe once. But now, but the music is what you heard, and you practice all that Minneapolis song. That was really the, other than listening to Hendrix and Zeppelin in early days, like a lot of guitar players. Then the R&B, if you wanted to work, you had to play like, that rhythm sound of Prince. That was it, and it's that tightness, that funkiness, that pocket, they call it. And and it was tight back then, and everybody had, you had to play like that if you wanted to work. And so that's how we grew up and listening to. And so when Morris came on, to make a long story short, make a long story longer, I had to play with Morris. I grew up listening. I really love that song on the walk. Mm-hmm. Actually, when I was trying to pick up girls, I would morph into Morris. Like like a lot of people. I would always, I'm gonna make you love me. That's how I would talk. And so
smoothie,
so I had to play. So I had to play with him. Yeah. So and then I can remember doing an earlier version of Freakjuice. It's my original project that I do here in town. We were on our way up to San Francisco, and my guys, Satnam Rangatra and Jai Dillon, had never really heard of the time. I was like, "You never heard of the time?" And so we were playing that Pandemonium all the way up to San Francisco and all the way down, and it was the weirdest thing, when I got home on my answer machine was Morris. Tori, we gonna put together the band again, and I'd like to see if you'd like to come down and play. We're gonna be at, I was like, oh my God, this is too surreal. And so, I missed a part. Back in the day, I was in Austin with Charlie Redd here in town, and we had a kind of like a time cover band, and we played all those songs. So when I went to the audition, I didn't even listen to the stuff because I just played,
Mm-hmm.
and got the gig, and it's been 30 years ever since. And the reason why, and a lot of things for me kind of always fell into place. Like I can remember distinctly, like I kind of missed the part where I had a record deal with this woman named Cree Summers, who was on A Different World, and Cosby Show Different World, she's a spinoff. We had a rock band on Capitol Records. We did a record, and so I was running pretty great, and then we did a record with Lenny Kravitz. She did the record. I produced wrote and produced a few things. But my son was being born, and then I got a publishing deal. I remember this, right when my son was being born, like back then they gave you some money to we produce and write songs, so it was a healthy check. But I can remember right when everything the bottom had kind of not dropped out, but I was in a low, like, oh, my son's being born, looks like I gotta go get a job. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, it's time for a job. Got my little boy on the way, and then I get home and Morris was on the answer machine.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the right sequence, but I definitely do remember like that. Like if I don't get this gig, it's it for me. So I definitely believe I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing, especially this long. You know what I mean? So.
You guys still turning out?
What?
The time?
Oh yeah,
oh, my
yeah.
Gosh.
I mean, we up there doing it, and it's a blessing just to have people showing up at our age, but I think one of the things that appeals to people is that like there's no machines, there's no tracks. You're gonna get what you're gonna get. It's gonna be raw, it's gonna be funky, and it's gonna be what it is. You might hear some things, but it's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be raw and very like 99.9% is gonna be great. Other than things out of our control. But for me, that's how I grew up, listening to things that were not perfect. And, we move as human beings, in that perfection. We're fluid. Our body's full of water. So, these machines, that locks you in, I don't believe it's, we're meant to hear music like that. Yeah. So, yes, we're still giving it to you raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, raw and funky.
So do you remember your first rehearsal after you got that call from Mars?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How was that?
I walked in there, and I was just in awe, like, be honest with you, I never said this live to Morris or anybody, like, but I'm sure they knew. I was just kind of in awe, like, Jelly Bean and Monty, I can remember, like, he was sitting down, and I saw him on the album covers, but I never saw him up close personally, until then. And he was sitting down. I didn't know whether it was Morris Day or really the time. But then when I was like, oh man, Jelly Beat's here. Oh, there's Jerome. I was like, oh, this is the time. That's like, oh, shit. So I was like, well, if I don't get this one, it's job time. But so when things worked out, it was really cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So when you play with them now, how much do you have a little bit of freedom, to kind of put your own stamp, I guess, on the songs?
I've taken liberties with a long solo in 777, and Morris lets me play in Gigolos here lately, but with the music, it's so funky that you want to keep the parts exactly like they are on the record, and it's an art to it. A lot of people that come on and hear this funk music, overplaying. There's a guitar player now that says it's funk, and he's kind of real popular. That's like, that is the first thing from funk. Everybody, all this, it's space. Funk is a lot of times what you don't play. It's a lot of space in funk, and that's what people don't. They think you always got to be waka waka. No, and so to your point, no, you got to keep the. Prince wanted those parts exactly like they are on the records because they may be simple, and they're sparse, but when you put them all together in an arena, it's very powerful. It's like a wall of sound coming at you, kind of like baking a cake. If you just had the flour and then without the icing, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know, that analogy sucked, but you know what I mean. It's a big, powerful sound. It's a big power when it's all together, and you're playing. And now, if you're overplaying, it's going to start to get mushy, and you're not going to hear the space in it. If you listen to those, and Prince, he wrote those songs, and so we did a show in Vegas, and he could take liberties, they're his songs, but he would know the right holes to put them in, and that's something you kind of learn. You got to learn your space and your holes, it's a art, it's a discipline. Like if they're real influenced by James Brown. If you listen to James Brown, probably the guitar player is just holding it, just holding that, just holding it. You don't hear. You don't hear any of that nonsense. So that's the lesson, kids. Hold your parts.
Hold it, yes.
Hold them parts. And if you especially on the Minneapolis tour.
One more thing about the time. So you've been with them for, been hanging out with them for a long time. So I want to know, tell me a funny story.
Okay.
A crazy story about one time when y'all were on the road. I know you have a ton of them, but just try to pick one.
Well, we were, I think Morris talks about this in his book, but I'll tell it to you anyway, because it was probably the most PG story I got for you. There's some stories, all right, but you kids can't hear them. So we were in, I think this is when we were filming Rave into the year 2000, and Prince was always notorious for these jams, late night jams. When we were on the road with Musicology, man, and I don't know how he did it, he'd be at the arena at 10 a.m. sound checking and getting everything right, and then he'd sound check us, and then he'd rehearse his band, and then he'd run sound for us, and then he'd play his show, and then he'd do these jam sessions at 3 a.m. or whatever, and we'd be in the next city, and he'd be in the arena by 10 a.m. doing it all over again. And, but the funny story is, I was like, what would you ask me again? The funny story is we were at Raven to the year 2000 with Lenny Kravitz, and he had just Larry Graham was on bass. Anyway, so he's like, Morris, get the fellas back. We're gonna go in the studio. I was like, kick ass. We're about to fucking record with Prince. This is dope. This is awesome. So we're in there, man, and listen to this track. And, all right, I want y'all to go out there and jump on some vocals. And then, and later on we'll lay down some guitar or whatever. And so we go out there. I was like, oh man, we're gonna be on the vocals too. The whole band. We're gonna do this chant. Oh, I know what's gonna be cool. There were some girls in the studio, and he goes, "Girls, go out there with them." It's like maybe 10 or 15 girls. Like, oh wow, this is okay. This is gonna be a chant part. This is cool. He was setting us up he was setting us up. And this is when he was in doing this whole Jehovah's Witness thing, man, where you got to preach to your flock, and so he goes out there, cut, and I want everybody, okay, and he stands up and he's okay. I need everybody to sit down, sit down for a minute, So there's a group of us. It's like a big circle. And it was me, Morris, and Ronnie Baker Brooks. Ronnie from Chicago, bluesman, and me, Jelly Bean. And back then I was, after the show, I was kind of boozing. We'd always have our cocktails and get right. And this was after the show. So me and Morris had a flask. Morris had a flask. No, let's see. One of us had a flask. I think I had a flask. And Morris was sitting down, because Morris sat down too. I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, he's sitting down next to me. And this Prince is, he was standing up. And he started preaching like, now what would you do, all of you, something to the fact to get to the next level, this is something crazy. Morris looks at me like, oh, Lord, Tori, pass me that flask you had in the pocket. I can't take this. I was like, okay, Morris. I reach in my jacket and pull the flask. He tried to take it. Or I might even had a bottle in it, and it just goes. It was dead silence. I'm like, I am so fired. I am so toast. Morris just he starts laughing, and Prince just ignored the whole thing. I thought I was so fired. I dropped a whole bottle of Jack or a flask. Click, click, click. And it made everybody's looking around like, I was like, oh, Lord, I'm so fired. So that's my funny story. I thought it was funny.
It is funny. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
How long did he preach?
I can't remember.
You don't remember?
After that.
And y'all didn't have no booze because it's all over the floor.
It wasn't long, because Morris maybe stood up and like, it wasn't long. It wasn't long. I think that kind of ended the whole preaching session. He saw it, but I think he went to another different direction.
It wasn't going to work.
It wasn't going to work on these heathens.
Well, you had the opportunity to design your own guitar.
Yes, I did.
Can you talk to us
about that? I'm very lucky.
that?
I'm very excited about this. It's the Tori Ruffin Freakjuice model.
Tori, do you have a nick on that already?
Oh yeah, that's from beating it up.
God.
That's from beating it up, girl. That's what gives it character. Yeah. You don't want them pretty. You want them funky and stanky. That's what makes it funky. But anyway, yeah, this is a Tori Ruffin Freakjuice signature model, roasted maple neck. I'm so happy the Schecter was able to do that. It came about. We had been with them for years, I believe after the musicology tour we got with them, and Prince, that cloud guitarist Schecter, and so, and Takumi, I remember being at Paisley Park one day. Takumi, hey you guys, why don't you go over to Schecter? And I believe Takumi hooked it up, and they gave, actually we were doing a movie, Jay and Silent Bob, and they gave Freeze a bass, and I was waiting out. They were trying to get me something left-handed, and something happened, and then we circled back years later. One of the guys, I was over at ESP, and one of the guys ended up being at Schecter, and I was like, oh man, we should go. But Takumi was trying to get us over at Schecter as well. So, and it finally happened, and we were with them for years. And like I said, well, a lot of you guys don't know, Freeze is the bassist. But he has over 400 songs covered, and he goes back to the Solar days with the Silvers and the Whispers, and he and Leon did some amazing work. So he's an amazing songwriter and producer. he did some stuff on Morse. But anyway, Freeze has done a lot of stuff, and then they looked at what I was doing with Freakjuice and beating up the clubs, and they saw I was in doing other stuff other than Morse. I was doing some smooth jazz shit and stuff, and whatever, I've always kind of been the LA side, or just the side guy when I could, and they said, hey man, would you guys like to do a signature? And I about lost it. I was like, oh my God, yes, would we like to do our signature? So yeah, so this is it. This is the roasted maple necks.
That is a beautiful instrument.
Yeah.
So when you were designing it, when you were just in the talking part of it, what were the features that were most important to you about that guitar?
Well, I knew I wanted to do something that was going to fit what I did, and it was not trying to be a one-size-fits-all, but I need a little bit of a Swiss Army knife because like I mentioned, I love jazz, punk rock. I did some Fishbone and some reggae. I played in a legendary punk rock alternative ska metal jazz band called Fishbone, and they do everything, and then my band Freakjuice does a little bit of everything. And so I needed a guitar that could rock, that could skank and be funky, obviously for the time. And so I went to work on it. I love the jazz harmony. I love jazz harmony, and that's what I really work on every day. And so if you go here, it's going to sound like it's going to give you that warmer tone, even more so than the traditional Strat. And if you pull it out, you got the pull switch here, then it splits those two, and it becomes like a single coil, and it gives you more of the traditional Strat. So you got the Tori Ruffin warmer kind of, jazzy bebop, going for that kind of tone from a Strat. If not, and then the traditional Strat, and then we got the single coil, and then we also got the 5-way. So you can. Down here, it'll be this pickup, and then, splits, bam, splits, full on,
Nice.
And then when you do that, you can pull this, and it gives you another set of tones. So, doing sessions, and I don't know who's gonna call me for what, so I wanted something I can kind of get, be prepared to do whatever I want to do. But it's really set up, I got other guitars for stuff, but it's really set up for Freakjuice and the stuff with the time and what we do live,
Yeah, so this has become your go-to guitar.
It's my everything. I designed it, and it's what I love. It has some locking tuners there on the back there.
When you saw the finished
Bridge.
Product, when was there a moment, when you held it and you said you played around on it and like, they got it. This is it. We got it.
Yeah, man. Freeze, he went through quite a different few pickups and stuff, and the combination they put on the Pasadena Classic, and I got the single Nick Johnson, and this is the hot Pasadena.
That's
the hot one, and so when he handed it to me, I played it. I took it out live. I was like, dude, I think you guys nailed it. Now, they nailed it on the first. Colin over at Schecter really was instrumental in getting me exactly what I wanted as far as the pickups. He's great over there. And I think one of the execs up at Schecter is left-handed, so they make a lot of good left-handed stuff. And I was at different companies over the years, and their left-handed stuff just never seemed quite right. Like, it's almost like an afterthought. But these, play really well, and it's perfect. Yeah. So get yourself a Freakjuice signature. If you mention the word Tori Ruffin, there'll be 10%. There'll be 10% off, or we'll get you free shipping. Now, so players in town, this probably go, you guys can holler at me, all the players, I'll be happy to get you one.
We got a couple heavy hitters in town that bought the first one.
Yes, you do, man.
Yeah.
My man Phil Clarkin and
Dylan Layton.
Dylan Layton, thank you.
Dylan Layton bought the very first one.
He did.
And then Phil was right behind him.
Yeah, yeah. So very, very, and it's doing quite well. It turned out that there's more players than myself that like different different tones, and
well, I think it's a masterpiece. And
thank you.
God, when you play that thing, I mean, I've seen you play it in all different types of
this is the prototype. So they had to move this a little in just slightly a little different, but I really like this one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good one. You did good.
I did good.
You did good.
I did good. We'll be doing a masterclass in 2027 about that whole thing, so look out for that.
Now, who's involved in all of that far?
Well, unfortunately, we lost the original member of the time, Jelly Bean Johnson. He passed. So he was originally involved, so we got Kirk Johnson from Prince's band, and then Matt Fink from the Revolution. And then Monty Moore is going to come back and do the masterclass with us, and that'll be the first time they've ever played together, the Revolution and Memory from the Time, so that's exciting.
Nice. Where's it going to be?
That's going to just in college. We're going to do one in Minneapolis, and we're going to take it around the country next year. For schools and things like that. Maybe we can type in the numbers if anybody sees us and they want to get in touch with us. You can, or you can just get the Tulsa Podcast, and Amy will get to me, and we'll get you all the info. So yeah.
So speaking of Freakjuice, Tori Freakjuice Ruffin.
That's right.
That's your band here in Tulsa.
Yes.
And I don't know, y'all. When you go see these guys play, you just never know what to expect. Sometimes, they'll dial it down a little bit. When it's hot outside, playing out on the patio, it's too hot to do this. and then we'll all just kind of sit and just kind of listen. And it's still good.
Right.
But when you turn it up, man, I'm like,
you're a fan
come
of the heavier
out
stuff.
of my hair, good.
You're the fan of the heavier stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about how Freakjuice came to be. Like, people say that Freakjuice is like the Deftones meet Miles Davis, and
I think I described it that once for lack of a.
Because it's kind of hard to put in a box.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned before, I grew up on everything. And I played with Fishbone, and but I've always liked it funky, and I do like some heavy music. And Deftones definitely one of. I like the single kick metal, because that always seems to move me. Like Helmet was a big influence. They had. I think those two bands really are similar. I think that drummer listened to some early Helmet, Ape. Anyway, because the beats that they play under it is funky to me, and that's what drew me to Led Zeppelin a lot of times too. Because John Bonham to me is one of the funkiest drummers for rock. So I like that, the groove, underlying groove, and so Freakjuice. It really came out of a way to release when I would get off the road from playing, doing something so coordinated. Thank you, or just a specific style and a specific discipline. When I got off the road, I wanted to experience and delve into all my other influences, and so it's really started as just a way to have fun, and it still is that. It's my passion. So in one set, with my new band, we could do an Eddie Harris tune, and then we can do No Quarter. Eddie Harris is a jazz player, and he wrote the song Freedom Jazz Dance, and so we can do that, and we'll do Led Zeppelin with Chris. We might do a Wanton song with Chris rapping over it. That's your favorite. I know. I know. So it's all over the place. And with my new bands, I got this probably one of the underrated guys or just undiscovered talent. I like this guy, Steven Schultz. I got on bass. Is just a phenomenal player. we can go anywhere and do anything, and he's funky too, you know. But he wants to learn too at the same time. He's always asking about stuff, you know, and he's real into it. I can remember the first time we had a gig, and this is why one of the reasons why I think he's great too is because he reminded me of what we had to go through in LA. Like sometimes you only get one shot to impress somebody, or or you don't get the gig the next time. You know, that's LA, and that's kind of like Chicago. Here probably is not so much because it's a lot of laid back, and players grow up with having access to all these clubs to play at, and I don't think that, you know, I can't speak for everybody, but just from what I've seen, but it's so tight in LA and so cutthroat, you know, and so hard to get a gig that you got to throw down on the very first time. And so my point with him is he reminded me of my younger self when I was, you know, he came in just knowing the music cold. I had one rehearsal without the drummer, and I didn't think we were going to be able to do a gig. It was a Mercury show, and he came in knowing just everything cold, and we went and killed the gig. So he's on the gig. I wanted to give him some flowers, and Chris has been with me for years, and you know he's my the heart and soul in terms of keeping me creative and writing lyrics and you know entertaining the crowd, and we've had a great relationship over the years. And Charlie Red is the one who brought me here or told me about Tulsa, this little gem. You know, when I first, he was on the road with Bonnie Raitt or Eric Clapton, one of those guys singing background. They were on a tour, and he was like, "Man, you got to come to Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's just like Austin was when we were kids." I'm like, "Man, I am not coming to no dusty Oklahoma." You know, I was like, you know, L.A. thinking it was, you know, just some podunk stuff. Man, I came here, and all my all the musicians had houses, and back then, you know, in L.A., a vodka and just the cost of living, like a vodka and the cranberry was $38. There, I came down here. This is back in beer, vodka shot, and anyway, I was just amazed at how cheap it was here. Not to reminisce about the $5 shot at Mercury. I was like, what? Drinks for everybody. I just couldn't believe it, man. It was like, and you're going to pay me to play original music 2 shows? I was like, I love this town. I started getting fights with my girlfriend to come here, you know. I was like, no, I got to go to Tulsa. The Mercury, you know, so, you know, that's where it all started. There was this guy named Josh, man, and every 4 songs, Freakjuice was playing, "What you drinking?" And, you know, in L.A., if you know anything about the L.A. scene, it's like, a lot of it's pay to play, 5 bands a night, selling tickets, and I would never sell a ticket. I would play this place called Coconut Teacher, but my thought was one day you're gonna pay to see me, and when we, you know, so. But in LA, it was just crazy, you know, and $20 to park. You fight with the bouncers treat you like, you know, this is why you're trying to hone your craft and getting people to rehearse. You get down here, people are rehearsing for free, and you're playing a gig, and you got paid a little something. You know, you got paid. I was like, you're paying me? This is awesome.
So
I can remember, yeah, it's like a grown man's playground when I first got. I had a lot of good times here in Tulsa. It's a great city.
And you made an album here. Freakjuice made an album here.
I did, man. It was Horton Records gave me my first. I love that guy. And somebody I knew, you know, when you're doing a project, it's always good to be, even if it's validated on some level. You know, it's good, but I don't know, you know, I always thought I was a good songwriter, but when they gave me a publishing deal to write songs, I don't know, it feels different. Not that you need validation, but maybe you do. I don't know. But
Well,
you know,
good to
sometimes
be recognized.
it's good to be like I know this is a good song, you know, but then when you get a publishing deal or And so just the fact that he was going to help me make a record, I was just, and this was after, you know, I had done a lot of different things. I was like, man, this is great. You know, I'm like, what's not to love about Tulsa? You know,
Because when you go hear music in Tulsa, it's just
yeah, because you got some really killer players. There's a, you know, there's the Tulsa sound, but you know, there's the other Tulsa sound with Val Harding and the Gap Band. You know, I think I like, well, yeah, it's that sound, but the Gap Band was pretty huge in the 70s. And they're from Tulsa. I never knew they were from Tulsa until I got here. Greenwood Ocean Park, you know, so that was a big deal. There's a lot of great like Mark Downing plays with Charlie. He's super funky. Perry plays with Val. Bobby Moffitt, you know, everybody knows Bobby. But there's a lot of great players here. So, like I said, like every city, it's healing from past turmoil. You know, I hadn't heard about the massacre until I came here. They didn't teach that in school, and then turned out there's been massacre. You know, they never heard about that in my education, and I thought I came up in some pretty good schools, you know, but never heard about any of these massacres in history across the country. So that was eye-opening. So that I'm thankful for Tulsa for that too. You know, just to be able to know, you know, that history and that past, and so many good people here in town, you know, are trying to change that type of thing
and that's
from
one
ever
thing
happening
that
again.
just said it earlier. That's one thing that's so great about Tulsa. It's like, yeah, you have to know your history, you know, but you also have to be the change you want to see.
That's the change you want to see.
And people do that here.
Yes.
You know, you
so
see
if you're silent, you're complicit, guys. Stand up.
That's right.
That's another thing Freakjuice likes to, you know, we get on your ass. Let's go, juice makers. Let's be right.
Oh,
we
are.
Be on the right side of history. Be humble, be kind, you know.
Yeah, and all the Freakjuice fans were all called juice makers. You know, that's a very honorary title.
That's
you know,
right.
So
you got to make juice.
That's right. Get in the blender, y'all.
Get in the blender.
So after everything that you accomplished, everything that we've talked about today, from being on the road, recording, writing songs, having your own band, traveling all over the world. So what are you still excited about when you go on the stage? Like, you got a show this weekend, you know, so
I'm just
what turns you up when you...
Yeah, just excited for the endless possibilities of these 6 strings and what could come out of them, and what new thing that I might play that shocks me, or you know, what my band members might do to really enhance the music. Because although we have structure and there are songs, it's really a lot of improv going on. You know, especially live. You can hear some of it on the record. But live, you know, we'll open it up, and like I said, it's really a lot of improv. But I try not to go too far. I want people to, you know, still stay engaged. And so that's my mission. I want to kind of bring the jazz element, but still have the rocker mentality, the party, get your headbang on, get your energy up. You know, I don't ever want it to become too cerebral. I like the boneheadedness of it, you know, just the energy. I've always been, like, FISHBONE has really inspired me for all of that. You know, I really admire Angelo's and Spacey T. There's a lot of great players that don't really get mentioned, like Isaiah Sharkey, Mike Hampton from Parliament Funkadelic has recorded one of the best solos ever recorded on record in a rock or pop format, and it's not about technique, it's about the feeling of it, and it has melody, it has everything, it even has a diminished scale in it. Not to get too nerded out, but it's, you know, he recorded that in the 70s, and it's one of the best solos I've ever heard on record, you know. And I, you know, and I'm a big fan of Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page, and that stands up with all of them. So there's a lot of guys that don't get mentioned. You know, there's my man Blackbird McKnight that played with the Headhunters. You know, of course, Spacey T. He had one of the first black rock bands I think ever signed. You know, before I think Xavier. Yeah, he had, it was called Sound Barrier. So I just want to shout out to all those brothers that are, you know, in the trenches.
Yeah.
Still putting in the work. May not be in the guitar magazines, but you are killing it.
Boy, they are playing. Play those things.
Yeah, they can play them things. Yes, they can.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and taking the time with us.
No, I want to talk some more, man.
Really,
I'm not done.
You're not done? What else you got to say?
I'm
Come
just
on.
kidding. Thanks, guys. I had a good time.
We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate your time talking with us. You're just one of my favorite people in the world, and I thank you so much.
I really appreciate the opportunity, Amy, and big shout out to Brandon and the beautiful sidekick, better half, I should say, Pookie, and it's just the Tulsa Podcast, the Tulsa Podcast Tempo.
The Tulsa Tempo Podcast.
Yes, the Tulsa Tempo Podcast. Continued success.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.